Good afternoon. I'm Nowetner, the conversationalist. Well, you've seen me on Mondays. Hope you enjoy the political end of it. This is Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. And we are here with Josh with some whiskey, some cigars. There's smoking stories going on. We are smoking stories.
Haha.
Hey, like us, you know, subscribe, give me a thumbs up. Put a booger on the comments. I don't care. Just help me out, will you, please? Is I'm, I'm an old guy. Be sensitive. Crown Royal.
It's the drink
That's
of
the way it's
kings.
going. And what we're doing today is called a Pennsylvania matchstick. You can see it. I hope you can see it. Pennsylvania matchstick. Now, here's an interesting backstory on a Pennsylvania matchstick. Everybody here is smoking them. They're sissies. They don't want to be on air yet, but they'll get drunk enough and they'll get on. But anyway, that's another story, and we'll just deal with the Pennsylvania matchstick. Well, in Pennsylvania, they did a lot of coal and steel and all that stuff. I think half the mountains in Pennsylvania are hollow because they took all the coal out. God bless them. Anyway, there's this old guy outside of Pittsburgh who rolled these things, and he was from Nicaragua. Anyway, he the outside is Pennsylvania tobacco, pure broadleaf Pennsylvania tobacco. The inside is all from Nicaragua, from his cousins who grow it and age it and then ship it up here, and he rolls them. He's been rolling them. Get this. He's been rolling them since he was 9 years old. He's 93 now. He just taught his great grandson how to roll cigars, and he's taking the business over. Is that amazing? He
93?
wouldn't turn it over to anybody.
93? 93?
93. 93. You should see his hands. They're black and they're all gnarled up.
That is one hell
Can you
Yingling.
see?
Yeah.
Yangling, oldest American brewery in the United States. Right here, south of us, we get that good stuff from the factory. We also go down and drink entirely too much, but we have a designated driver, which is important because we're old. All right, let's see. So, being old, I want to talk about my week, obviously. What the hell else would I talk about? How was your week? My week sucked. This was the week of hating people for whatever reason. Seems like everybody touched me wrong. Everybody had a comment that I wasn't expecting or didn't necessarily agree with, or anyway. Let's before we get into the story, let's set the guidelines. If you're gonna speak or you're gonna write, 8 minutes. That's it. You're done in 8 minutes. You want any more than 8 minutes? Go on Joe Rogan. All right. So anyway, this week was like, annoying. That's the best word. Everybody I came into contact, including Josh, was annoying. It's just the way it is. Sometimes, and now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, no, Tom, it was you. You were the center point. You were annoying to everybody else. I beg to differ. I was not wrong. The times I've been wrong in my life, I was wrong about those. So I was right. Just ask my grandchildren. Simple as that. Ask the kids. They'll tell you the truth. Bug invested virus carriers. So anyway, we got the this whole thing going on where I hated people and I stayed away from them mostly. Some invaded my sanctuary on my property, but I got rid of them quick. No, I let them walk away. No new holes on the farm. can vouch for that. So my incident of the week, we'll have an incident of the week every week where I would come on a Sunday. A little funny incident, right? So I break down and decide my son has to go to Home Depot. I go, all right, well, I'll go with you. So we went to Home Depot. Well, I use a walker and then I hang onto a cart and go around. And the amount of stuff I need from Home Depot is negligible. I mean, I've got so much crap here over 70 years, and I don't throw anything away. Everything goes in a coffee can. And I figure someday I'm going to use that. So I got everything I need. But, he's young. He's getting his life together. He just bought a house. Wife's egging him on about decks and things like that. So we walked through and I did the best to help him get the stuff he needed. And we get to the counter. And there's this young, nice looking black woman. And she says to me, do you have your senior citizens discount? So I looked at my son. And I said, rip it out, man. She's talking to you. Well, my son's a little slow on the uptake. And he was babbling for a while. And then he realized I was joking. I gave him my pro card from Home Depot, which is also a credit card. Did you know that? I knew that. So his things got on my credit card. That was slick. That was really slick. I was going for the discount, not to pay the bill. But, some days you get the bear and some days the bear gets you. The other thing that happened that was significant, I thought, was the anger. Have you noticed the anger is turned up on social media? I mean, we've got angry, angry people. Trump's been shot at twice. What the hell is that about? And nobody knows anything. The Secret Service was well armed and well manned. And the other CIA was probably behind it. But then you got Homeland Security. You haven't heard a peep from them. They're in charge of everybody. Where's the consul general or whatever the person is managing that place? Where are they? Where's the Justice Department saying, oh, what's happening here? Why are we going to lose a candidate in the field? I mean, you got to laugh. You have to laugh. Because if you don't laugh, you're in trouble. But the other thing you got to do is vote, vote, vote. If you don't vote, you don't have a dog in the fight. When you vote somebody in and they don't do what you want, you vote them out. These career politicians have only been around since the 80s. Before the 80s, there was no career politicians. Biden's been in there 40 years. Tell me 3 things he did for the country. You can't. I don't want to go off on political because I do that on Mondays, but I just figured that was worth mentioning because holy moly, I was scrolling through, get up in the morning, brush your teeth, do your constitutional. I work out for about 45 minutes, so I watch podcasts, usually funny ones. I like to start my day that way, funny podcasts. And then I listen to news, mostly from overseas. You can get the raw footage, and I really enjoy that because a lot of it's really silly and funny. However, going through social media this morning while I was working out was tough because every time I scrolled away from something worse came up. I mean, it's scary how many angry people we have in this country. I mean, you have to look at it from an old guy's point of view. I never seen this level of violence in my whole life. And I was a corrections lieutenant, both state and federal. Guys, I have a background in this, who's the best dude in the place. And at one time, I wasn't the baddest dude, but I wasn't the one that you wanted to mess with. Now I'm just ruthless because I got no legs. So I got to be ruthless. I can't be tough. What are we doing? Why are we so angry? What? Did somebody explain it to me? Because I don't get it. That's how, we're not rednecks, but hillbillies up here. We don't, we don't get a lot of you city folks. What the hell you're doing? Even though I was born here or Richmond, Staten Island, but I came up here a long time ago. Figured out there was a better way to live. Speaking of better ways to live, we had our first bear alert last night. Yeah, bear in the neighborhood. So the phone started ringing off the hook about 10:30, 11 o'clock. Bear alert. We got this phone tree that they ran through. Plus, we have all the old ladies that sit in their bay windows watching TV and watching the street. It's like a sentinel. And then they just do the phone tree to tell everybody that I got home late or my wife got home late or what groceries we did. It's interesting, important stuff. You got to know what's going on in your street. And then the next thing I want to talk about is Biden's out of the way, right? So we don't have to worry about it. Who are you worried about? Harris or Trump? I don't get it because I voted a lot of times. Yeah, yeah. Gary says we voted all the time, but it's least worse. We're always voting the least worse. How is that possible? We have that many failures. I mean, I had a chance this week to interact with educators, and one of the things I do on the side is teach people how to deal with handicapped people. People like me, and it's really exciting, a lot of fun. But I'm sorry, these educators are backwards. They just don't get it. Anything added to their day is, intolerable. Well, I'm intolerable a lot of the time, so just get used to it. So, I'm teaching them how to address and, you know, understand that they just want to be addressed like everybody else. They just want to be included like everybody else. And, we ride the small bus with the helmet. We lick the boogers off the windows, but that doesn't make us bad people. So explain that one to me. I mean, our education system, we teach about feelings, about genders, about wokeness, about abortion. Uh, what else? About personal value time. I like that one. Personal value time, where you have time to interspect, like whatever it is, to get in your head and understand just what is tripping you off. So I'm not going to say it was my daughter-in-law because that would be terrible. But some young ladies that I happen to have a conversation with uh, were telling me about the necessity of having downtime during school and the importance of them knowing how to deal with their feelings. So after this dissertation went through, I kind of ignored everybody, and finally, they suck you in. And I said, well, I don't understand. We don't teach reading, arithmetic, science, social studies. We don't teach about the government anymore. We talk about the wokeness of America. We talk about feelings and safe spaces. Oh, I love safe space. I have a safe space in my basement. Every time my grandchildren piss me off, I send them down there. Now, it's a big TV room, games and things. So I'm not banishing them to a dungeon, but you know what I mean. You either get them out from underfoot or you squish them. That's how children should be treated. Well, I guess what I'm getting to is if we're not teaching anything solid, you know, like they taught us how to balance a checkbook. You know what? Nobody does that anymore, but it taught us budgeting. What it taught us. That's what I got out of it. Nobody, I haven't written a check in probably 10 years, maybe longer. But, along with checkbook, you got to see the numbers physically. You had to put them in there. You could see how much you're spending according to how much you're bringing in. And I thought that was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good when, I had a semester of auto mechanics shop. And then I had a semester in the wood shop. And then there was a metal shop where we made copper ashtray. And we got to learn how to use tools and things, usually hitting each other with them. But, it was entertaining, especially when you got somebody really good and they're hopping around on one foot and the teacher screaming at them to stop monkeying around. Those are important things in child's growth, not taking the blame, running like hell, right? And you get to do that anymore. I mean, recess is on ground that is softened to the blow. So that children, when they were skipping across the playground, they will not trip and hurt themselves. Well, and their slides are 6 feet long with 2 feet of a stop. There ain't no rock climbing anymore. There's no what happened to that recreation? I mean, we used to ride these things that we took our lives in our hands, and then we got up and did it again because let's face it, we weren't the brightest ones in the bunch. Anyway, so that was the other thing we talked about today. Yes, Greg. Greg keeps saying the same thing over and over again. We've got to revamp. What are you, 78 years old, and the only thing he knows because he's a retired teacher who's sucked down double pay one time because he was retired and then went back in as a contract worker. Those double deckers. That's our tax money at work. Anyway, so yeah, I agree. With the internet and all this wonderful possibilities of education, watching things, learning things through the internet. Is it really working? I don't know. I don't know. If I was left to my own devices and sit in front of a TV show and learn how to do algebra, I don't think I'd do it.
I'm gonna chime in on that. What do you think about Montessori schools?
Montessori schools in the beginning were workhouses with actually very little education going on. And then they grew into an educational facility. And their mark is individual advancement within the group. You have to remember, I came through with priests and sisters and monks and, the Marines of the Catholic Church. If you know anything about the Catholic Church, you know who I'm talking about. We come in and drag off priests or, come in to clean up places. It was important back then that there was a discipline. There doesn't seem to be any discipline with this. I don't know. What do you think? Explain how this system is better than the other system.
After I found out what Montessori schools were, I immediately thought that they were filters for autodidacts, people who can teach themselves.
Right.
But they don't they
Well,
don't they don't filter anybody. They treat everybody the same, even though there are some brilliant kids at play there.
well, that's the premise. Everybody grows at their own rate within the group. And there are some, the name eludes me now, but it was a granddaughter, friend of ours who passed. Can't think of her name. She went to Montessori. And she's some big, huge wig up in some, you know, data engineering firm out in California or wherever. And we get Christmas cards from her every year because we did do a lot for her and her family. And, you know, so I have to believe. But for guys like me, not you, because you're so young, but guys like me, if I didn't have that regimented school day where you were in the classroom 42 minutes, then you had 8 minutes to get to your next class, and you had 23 minutes for lunch, and assignments were due on Monday. You got them back Thursday. God forbid if you did, people who did bad on their assignments, you got a pop quiz, so you got double whacked. You know, we were taught the basics, and I know that's not anything near what you need in this day and age, but we had a solid foundation. Yeah, I think that's important that you have that solid foundation. But the other thing is, I look at my grandchildren, and you know, I see so many attributes. Quick thinking, fast motor reaction, inquisitive minds. Uh, how do I do this? How do I get better at that? So there's a lot of mental stimulation going on there. And I, we were talking about this at Dunkin' Donuts. We were saying, is there a way to integrate it with, old school techniques, where, math and social studies and government and whatever can be done. Think about, okay, here's a good one. And this, yeah, actually, a retired state trooper stopped by the table, said this. Said, what about driver's ed? When I went to school, it was mandatory. You had to take the 12-hour course. 4 hours was in classroom, 6 hours of driving. You couldn't say no to it. I mean, it was put on your curriculum. You were scheduled for it. Now there is no driver's ed. Everybody teaches their kids. Well, a lot of the parents are worse than the kids, to be honest with you. And uh, they're teaching their kids. And now it's kind of like driving is you don't worry about drivers uh, being reckless. At least I don't see it. I see people who just don't understand that they have to be in the, I don't know what that means. They have to be in the um, system of phones and data and social media, and they're going down the road as a second option.
Yeah,
And
cell
that
phone
second
driving.
option is driving.
Yes, surfing on the internet on your cell phone while driving.
Yep.
The hypocrisy is
So
hilarious. I have a buddy and he yells at his kids about it all the time, and yet I watch him do exactly that.
exactly, exactly. We were sitting at a light, Aaron and I, because I've taken off driving for a couple of weeks until I get my medication back online. Um, I do that because out of abundance of caution. You know, I have all the hand controls in my truck and everything, but I still don't drive when I don't feel I'm 100%. It's just a courtesy, and I sure as hell don't want to hurt myself or anybody else. Live with that. So, but that's how I deal with driving. But going back, if there's no driver's education, where are we teaching our children not to be multitaskers behind the wheel? And they are. Now, listen, I got to do this because it's a commercial break, okay? Because this will make Josh happy. So this is Sunday. It's all new, right? Smoking conversations or stories, smoking stories. That's what we came up with a name. If you don't like it, too bad. Uh, we're going to share cigars. We're going to tell you about the ones I'm smoking. Going to tell you which whiskey. I got a bottle coming in from Ireland. Like Aaron's cousin. Aaron's my wife is sending me. So next week I'll have a nice bottle of Irish whiskey. You only have 8 minutes. You want to join us? Join us. You want to write something? Fine. But you got 8 minutes. I ain't putting up with your redundancy for more than 8 minutes. It just doesn't work for me. We want you to like and subscribe. Please, guys, help us out. We're new. When you're new, you're begging. So here I am begging. I get down on my knees, but I never get up. And a lot of the information that I'm using now and talking to you about is from emails and my personal friends. So I'd like to hear from a wider range of people. You know, subscribe and like and give me a thumbs up and put a comment in there. I'd love to answer your comments. I got Josh, the Wizard of Oz, who makes me look and sound good, which is pretty damn hard. But I want you to know that we're trying. Josh more than I am because I'm the talent. He's a producer. We put all the effort into him just so he can put out more effort. It's not terrible of us. Hey, Josh, frog you.
I feel like it's a mutually beneficial agreement. I believe that's the way we say it here.
Is that your safe space?
No, I'm always in my safe space.
I said safe space.
Yeah,
Anyway,
everywhere I go.
so in the wintertime, I do a lot of arts and crafts. I do this. I smoke a lot of cigars. My friends smoke a lot of cigars. So in other words, I get a lot of cigar boxes. Well, the cardboard ones I give away. But the wooden ones, the nice wooden ones, I keep. And I put dioramas in it. And so, Josh, I'm going to put one together for you that you can, our partners in crime out at Aortic Hope, you can give it away as a prize. And then maybe I'll make a wood nest and send it to you. The importance of it is, everybody, I want you to understand that I had an aortic dissection 12 years ago, almost 13 come Christmas. And basically laid around for 4 years and fought like hell for 4 years. And now I'm 2 years into actually figuring out that I'm as good as I'm going to get, and I'll never be a chef again, but sure as hell can torment all the people I want on the internet. Besides that, in the wintertime, you get 3 days of 50-degree weather up here in upstate New York. Tom doesn't go outside anymore. If Tom has to go outside, like to a doctor's appointment, Tom bundles up, the car is running, gets up to temperature. I skedaddle out to the car, get in the car, they take me to wherever the appointment is, and I skedaddle in there, and then I skedaddle out, and I come home. 50 degrees is where everything primarily works. Under 50 degrees, nothing works. So that's my limitations. But Aortic Hope, look them up. They're a great organization. I have St. Jude on my, because for every dollar I make, I give 50 cents to St. Jude because they do such great work. And, what am I going to do? buy another tripod, Josh? Think so. Anyway, please look up Aortic Hope. They're great people and they help you. They came into my life, I think about 7 months ago. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, they have this place called the Hangout. Now, I've been watching the videos all over the internet about survivors and medical issues and doctors and all that. And I was like, man, doesn't anybody talk about baseball? Doesn't anybody talk about, what they ate, or do you become a trapped person within the aortic community? And I found this place, this happenstance. I'm going to tell you, there's no miracle work on my part. I find this place called the Hangout, Aortic Hope Hangout, Thursdays at 2:00. Get notified on it. Josh will put up a link, I hope. Anyway, so here's the important part of this. I'm going around the bend again. Help them out. Go see what they're about. And Josh will give away some of my projects that I make this winter, and we'll see if we can raise some money for these people. Again, if you got a comment, 8 minutes. You understand? Because like Carl here cannot shut up because he's got his 2 cents in every 1 cent. And it's hard to do when you're squeezing two into one, if you know what I mean. Well, Josh, how much more time we got? Because,
I mean, how are you feeling?
well, I've had, let's see, 2 gummies. This is my second Crown Royal, my second Yingling. I'm good.
We're at
Probably go
32
for another
minutes.
4 hours.
We're at
But I hate,
32 minutes, yeah.
we're at 32.
Yeah,
That's
plenty
pretty
of
cool.
time.
I put the commercial in at just the right time.
Right on. That was beautiful. I loved it. Thank you.
Well, as the Wizard of Oz, you must control the situation. Nobody gets in to see the wizard, but the wizard controls everything. So I was kind of hoping that Chef Rob would show up tonight or this afternoon. I was really hoping that he would. But I got my compadres here, all with their Dunkin' Donut cups, but I can't swear that there was coffee in them. All right, guys, what do you want to hear about? Oh, that's a good one. All right, so here's from the uh, what do we call them? The hanger honors who wish to be anonymous. Uh, when you're dealing with young people, and this is a serious question, so hold your laughs to the end. When you're dealing with young people and they use all of these mnemonics, memes, 4-letter whatevers, how do you deal with saying to them, I don't know what you're saying, or I don't understand what you just said, or what the fuck are you? Oh, excuse me. What the frog are you saying? Yeah, I know, $1 into the curse jar. Jesus. St. Jude better be grateful because I put $1 in every time I curse. And if you really know me, you know that I got a foul mouth. And if it's in my head, it's out my mouth. And that pisses a lot of people off. But guess what? Remember this, because this is an important part. I don't give a frog's ass. Me, I'm at that age and that attitude. I just keep walking. Just keep walking. You want to walk with me? Fine. Don't want to walk with me? Go to hell, car. And what else? Come on, guys. Give me some. Oh, smoking. Now I smoke cigars. I don't inhale because I don't like to. I stole a Lucky Strike from my Uncle Arthur, and me and one of his sons, I forget which one, ran behind the barn and started smoking it. Well, we turned green, came back to the picnic and dying, and throwing up, and smelling like cigarettes. And of course, we got told that, that's what you get when you do something bad. But about a week later, we stole one of my grandfather's crook cigars, and we went behind the bar and smoked that. But we didn't get sick. And I thought, wow, this works out really well. So I've been smoking cigars since ever. I gave them up for a long time because the doctors were, for the first 3.5 years of my aortic dissection, they decided that they were going to tell me, you have to live in a recliner, lift nothing more than a gallon of milk. We will medically manage you, and you will come in once a year to be evaluated. Oh, that sucks. So for those 3 years, I did everything possible, you know, and I always wound up visiting the uh, emergency room. It was like I was on a first name basis with them. I didn't even have to stop at registration. The girls knew me all. They knew the information. They just put me in the computer. Oh, he's here again. But things level out. They always do. And it worked out in the long run. I think I was workaholic, one of those guys that just pumped it out 6 days a week. Didn't have to be in until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd show up at 8 in the morning. You're damn right. I was in my kitchen. We didn't have big menus. We only had, small menus. Because back then, you were only as good as your product. And if you didn't get lobsters and you wound up getting shrimp, you better be able to change the recipe or the dish. Because, we had appetizers and we had three of them, salads, maybe three of those, and maybe 4 or 5 entrees, and then desserts, three of them. But you never came in and saw a Chinese menu in one of my restaurants because I knew we couldn't support it. You can't, it's like a diner restaurant. Everything wound up tasting like brown gravy.
When did you open your first restaurant?
The first one was a bar. I went into this place. Now, I'm 19. I can't own a bar. Not in New York State at that time. Couldn't have it. You could own a bar. Let me take that back. You couldn't get a liquor license. So talked to a friend of mine who was working at the Department of Corrections with me, into going in with me. I just needed a signature. That's all I needed. And it was a real small bar. It only had 12 stools in it and 2 tables on the wall opposite the stools, one a 4 top and one a 2 top, and then a stairway upstairs. So you came in the front door, they called it a shotgun. It's just a one room, straight back, bathroom on the right, cooking facility next to the bathroom, and then the bar came into the cooking facility. So that was all on the left. So at the time, was really into like pork sandwiches and roast beef sandwiches. Oh, so cool. So another friend, his name was Max. He was a big hulking guy. I mean, just huge. We had to go downtown somewhere to buy his white shirts because he was so damn big. And I think at the time my mother even sewed some aprons or something for him because he was. I don't mean he was fat. I mean this guy was a monster. Uh, so he would come in, you know, probably 8 o'clock in the morning, and we had these big chef rounds of beef. It might have been 40, 50, 45 pounds. And we had these big ham hocks, or not ham hocks, but thighs, the uncured ham, so it roasted off like pork. It wasn't cured, so it just was a giant piece of pork off the thigh and some of the hip. And I had two big, huge ovens, and he would roast them, and He'd be two or three of them ahead, and we would open up, and we took all the bar stools out. So what that made them do was stop right at the end of the bar. They'd buy their beer, or whiskey, or whatever they wanted. We sold a lot of Coca-Cola because a lot of guys were going back to work. And then they would slide down and they would yell to the middle guy, I want two roast beef with vinegar peppers on it, or I want two roast beefs with hot peppers on it, or I want a roast beef and a pork sandwich. You also love these guys that didn't call ahead. I want 12 pork and 6 beef. Yeah, well, kiss my patootie. Anyway, so we had this big white bucket underneath the where Max he had probably 6 or 8 knives that he kept really sharp and had a big what they call tongue-in fork into the meat. So he would slice it right there in front of you, and he could get as thin you could read the New York Times. That's how thin that meat was. And then, of course, uh, some people wanted peppers, some people wanted hot peppers. We didn't go into anything big condiment wise. We didn't even give them mayonnaise or anything, or ketchup, or yellow mustard. We just, got on a Wagner baked Kaiser roll. I mean, when I went to school, and then when I started working, the first thing in the morning, I'd go down to the little store and get my hot buttered roll and my coffee. That was a big thing back in the 50s and 60s. Your hot buttered roll and a cup of coffee and a paper cup. I hate styrofoam. A little paper. Anyway, I digress.
No, no, hold on, hold on. I need you to explain to me what that Kaiser roll thing is.
It's a roll about probably 6 inches across, about 4 inches high, real crusty on the outside, really soft in the inside. And Wagner Bakery was a little bakery, but it wasn't a big bakery. But they were good size. Anyway, so they were across from the bar. So even as a kid, we would stop there, grab a Wagner roll, and then as I got older, I get a cup of coffee and a Wagner roll at one of the stores, the little mom and pop stores. We didn't have bodegas then; we had mom and pop stores. So life kind of like I get I try to understand the difference between today and then when I was growing up. It's real hard for me sometimes. Sometimes I don't know if it's my age or just my attitude or my limited processing, but I see so clearly what happened back then, and I'm so confused about what's happening here. You understand that? I hope you do. I can't explain it any better. Could you guys explain it then?
One of my favorite theories on the internet is now that the internet is available, all of the bad news that you don't hear about because it didn't have any real spread is now getting more and more noise, and everybody's taking it in more and more. So it's always been
Yeah,
this way. We just weren't
yeah.
aware.
Well, all right, that's a great way to say it. You have more coming in, so you're taking more in, so your anxiety level's higher. So anyway, they moved their asses down the bar, and Mac had this thing where he had all these papers cut and on there, and he would cut the meat, put it in a roll, put whatever you wanted on it. He'd pick it up with the fork and the knife, put it on the paper. He used the knife to fold it over. He'd slide it down, and we had a girl there who put it in a bag with a couple of napkins, and on the end was salt and pepper. I think that's all we had, salt and pepper. And they'd throw $5 into this white bucket. It was $5 a sandwich, which might have been a little expensive, but you probably got a half a pound of meat, maybe more, you know, and it was a good sandwich, uh, both the pork and the beef. And
Okay,
we used to
okay.
have
Hold on.
we used to have Hasidic Jews that came in to get the beef, but they wouldn't touch the pork.
What was the price of gas?
first tank of gas I bought was 29 cents a gallon. But, but, but that was at a gas station that girls worked with bikinis and washed your windshield.
Okay, so when you were running your bar, your first bar, what was the cost of gas?
About 29 cents a gallon. It was cheaper, but I always went to a more expensive place.
So
But you got to
your
remember, wait a minute,
sandwiches
I didn't buy
were
a car until I was 26. I
okay.
didn't need a car. I lived in the city. Used car service when I wanted to impress a girl. I used the bus or the subway when I wanted to impress myself, my pocket. You know, a lot of times I would just walk. Walking in the city used to be great. I mean, there'd be people 3:30 in the morning, couples walking down the street. Bunch of people just came from the theater. I mean, it was really cool. I mean, we loved it. I mean, we got out at 11 or 12 at night. We had go and hang out at some little dive joint that had been there since the 1800s, and we drink and we talk shit and probably get in a couple of fights, and then we went home and slept it off, and then came back to work the next day. It was like this. It was like this treadmill, and I overdid it. I overworked. My family suffered from me not being there. They didn't suffer because of the money. Obviously, the money. I was driven by money, but I was also driven by the prestige of owning. You know, I remember one time. You can't tell the redhead this. This is important that you guys keep this to yourself. But excuse me, my my brother used to run the front of the house, and I'd run the back, and he'd always slip me notes about this one or that one. And most of the time, the phone numbers were the suicide hotline, perverts or us or something like that. So, I would take the notes after a while and just stick them in my pocket. I wouldn't even bother calling the number. Well, about 2 weeks after he gave me this one, he said he wrote on there red and he misspelled head. How do you do that? And a phone number. I'm looking at him like, come on. So I just stuffed it in my pocket. I didn't even care about it. Probably went through the wash 3 times. Man, this little firecracker came down the bar. Red hair just blazing, green eyes, asking me what, or did I think I was too good to call her back? Now, I looked like a fire hydrant, especially when I was in my chef's uniform. I was no physical specimen in the world, and this girl was modeling Sears dresses, wedding dresses for the catalog and the Sears show. Yeah, Ed Sullivan used to have Sears commercials, and they'd show the girls in the outfits and stuff. So, come on. Here's Mr. Fire Hydrant. Here's his knockout. And she's just berating me about not calling her. Am I too good for her? Now, you got to remember, I was born with a curvature in my spine. And the only way to fix it back then was put you on a rack, real rack, and stretch you out. And I think I spent 4 or 5 years. Dr. Lang, his name was. And that's when the doctors still came to the house. Can you imagine that? Doctors came house calls. And when I got a cut on my forehead one Christmas, my dad took me to the pharmacist, and the pharmacist sewed me up. Well, Dr. Lang, he got together with some people, and they made the contraption for me, and they kind of stretched me out so I didn't look like a conch shell. And, did pretty good. I never did get to the part where they put the rods in to keep it from collapsing. Now they do it in vitro and solve all the problems and everything. So you're not going to see that anymore. But back in the 50s and 60s, when you were born with a spina bifida, they called it at the time. They don't call it that anymore. This is how they stretched you out. And, they would always tell the parents, you're only going to get 60% out of this, maybe 70, but you're still going to have some curvature. Well, mine was so slight that I could get away with, and I I I didn't bodybuild. I went for strength. It's a difference. There's a working man's strength and the bodybuilder. I hope you understand that. It's same muscles but different movements, different strengths. Like a bodybuilder is curved in, sculpted, where we were just fat, tough guys. I even got the, I even went to work for New Jersey Department of Corrections, and the doctor passed me. That was the first miracle. The second miracle was I passed the psych eval. How did I do that? That was even scarier than passing the physical. Interesting difference between now and then, right? Now, now you have to have uh, five, was it five sources of identification just to fill out the application. And Homeland Security gets one, FBI. Come on, guys, we're paying for you guys to do this stuff. You're making this up as you go along. Yeah, it was a good time. I was working within law enforcement organizations, working my way up, getting into the federal system. That's how you did it back then. If you want to sit still and be corrections officer for 25 years and get out, fine. But most people wanted to, go to better pay and better working conditions. Feds were much better than state, and that was just me. But then I figured out, yeah, there's got to be a better way than being shot. I mean, you're a bullet catcher, is what you are. Uh, Especially back in the '70s when it was so corrupted, so full of drugs. There was no demarcation between the cops and the criminals. They were all working together. So I got out, and my grandfather had owned a restaurant. No, he owned a grocery store. My grandmother owned a restaurant. I gotta get that right. And I knew how to run a restaurant, because we grew up in it. And that's another thing, we grew up working from, I was a paper boy at 7 years old. I had one building, 10 stores, 10 floors, and 10 apartments. That's 100 different people I had to deal with. Or 10 by 10. Anyway, the important part of that story is, does anybody make their kids work? I mean, I know the jobs are tight because we did $20 an hour for minimum wage. And that kind of crushed it as a after school job. That's what we did. We all went to work at McDonald's or Haynes Farm or Jennifer's Farm, and picked peaches and plums and hay. And then a few of us worked at McDonald's. And you had to have money to survive in the 50s and 60s. You didn't have money because your parents weren't going to give you money. But they came through the Depression and World War II. You asked them for money, they wanted it change back. There was no fooling around about money. I mean, these people that came out of World War II, they were tough. My dad was tough. The only time I got to see my dad, he worked 42 years for the Navy Yard. The only time I saw him was if I was up early enough when he left at 5:30, or at the dinner table. Otherwise, my dad wasn't in the house. And if he was, he's watching TV. And it was a little bit later at night, you know, because he was exhausted. And I heard somebody say that men of the 50s, 60s, and 70s lived qu- quiet lives of desperation. Quiet lives of desperation. Isn't that terrible? Isn't that terrible? So what did I do? I went right back in there, imitated my dad, and started working 80 hours a week. Yeah. So I guess the point is that there's such a difference. And if I see it and these guys see it and it's all over the internet and it's really making people angry, to get back to the origination of this, and people are getting so angry about it, how is that possibly a good thing? If we're drawing a line and standing on either side of the line and screaming at each other, what are we, one, what are we doing? How does that make the problem better or solve the problem? And what are we teaching our kids if the only thing we can do is scream at each other? Uh, it was just something we started talking about on Dunkin' Donuts. And, I know I got a little bit into the politics, but the truth of the matter is it's about young people and about the influence of the internet and the change in the school system, change in the belief system about genders and about what constitutes a woman. You know, if you got any good ideas, I mean good ones, put them in the comments, give them to me. Like and subscribe, because it's the only way I'm going to know who's out there. And I really want to hear your comments. You know, I'm going to read every one that I can, because I just enjoy seeing what I say provoke another road. Remember, we don't argue here. We state our point clearly within 8 minutes. And then we rock and roll on different points of view. But we only last 2 minutes and we go on to the next subject. Why? People's attention span is very short. I remember sitting out by the fire with my grandparents and my uncles and everything, talking for hours until I fell asleep in the chair. And listening to these people, they could talk hours. Well, they didn't have TV, they didn't have the internet. The only thing they had was newspapers and conversation. They were masters at conversation. They they were so interactive without hostility. And that was probably one of the best things I learned, how to have a conversation. And like we all said, guess what? There's nobody left to have a conversation with. They either ignore you or run away from you or totally disagree with you and don't even want to be coherent. So, you got anything to add, Josh? Because I'm talked out.
No, I like this. This is good.
Right.
I like the time slot too, because now I'm going to jump back into the NFL. And currently, the Ravens are playing the Cowboys,
Okay.
and we want the Cowboys to lose.
Well, you know my point of view on the NFL. I don't watch it anymore. I haven't watched it for years. I just watch the highlights and
I know. I
go
love
down
the.
the
It
road.
took them so long to do that, to put clips of highlights on YouTube. Way to drag your feet on that, NFL. Way to do it.
Well, the nice part is I can turn the sound down and I don't have to listen to those clowns.
Right?
You
You
know.
when you mentioned that the other day, one of my favorite incidences of sound disruption in the NFL is during a game and the announcers got cut out and all you heard was stadium. The stadium, the roar, the
Yeah.
whistling, like, and I thought this is the only way to watch this. They should have two channels, one with the stadium sound and one with the talking heads.
Yep. I agree. I agree that if it's not a second channel, there just should be some way that you can integrate. Like, there's a lot of good commentary on radio. I mean, excellent commentary. If you could marry that with what's going on at the screen, you make a bazillion bucks.
Right on. All right. Well, I like that you threw in the ad. That's beautiful, right?
I hope so.
I think so. I think that's great. And I like the time slot again.
Oh, we forgot. I forgot, guys. Hope you're still here. Wednesday. We're going to open up a Wednesday live. Scary. Scary. Gonna see me 3 times a week. Is that scary? That scares the hell out of me. I don't even know what we're gonna call Wednesday. I don't know what we're gonna do on Wednesday, but we're gonna be here Wednesday night. So you're gonna see me on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The rest of the time I'm going fishing.
I was pitching What's Up Wednesday.
That sounds like it, but I gotta talk to the redhead, you know.
Oh, I love that story, by the way. Oh, that's gonna be good.
Yeah. Oh well. You know, we all screw up in life.
All right, tell
I
these
got her
people
on
to
a
have a
week.
great week.
I got her on a week-to-week contract though, so it's manageable. All right, listen. Let me close this out. You know what I'm gonna say, right? Vote, vote, vote. You want a dog in a fight? Hold their tail to the fire. If they don't do what you voted them to do, get rid of them. Like and subscribe. I hope you have a great week. All God's blessings. I love you, man. Come back. Ladies, thank you very much for your attention. Josh, I think we're out.